Morning, Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today?
Wow.
Brother Doug.
I think you must have been hanging out and networking with appliance people over this past weekend, because that was a pretty spicy Monday morning.
I am pretty spicy this Monday morning.
Yes, you are. I'm going to go take a nap after that morning.
Orkin, it was great to meet you this weekend, brother. Great to meet you. Adam, what's up, brother? What's up? Yeah, we had a great time, man. Those that were there got to see the kind of raw and unfiltered Zach Kreider that you've grown to know and love. You laugh and pick on me, but they got to see it live and in person. As I was teaching. So
there's another synonym for bitterness that I need to find the right word that fits a positive bitterness. That's what you are. Oh wait, that's called Chicago. Never mind. I got it.
I just don't pull any punch. And I told as I'm warming up the technology class, because we did a class on like how to implement some technology as we're warming things up. EJ shared partway through like an experience with technology and his business, and he's like, Zach has a different thought on that. I'm like, I don't give up. You know, like gone, right? Like, and so they kind of got to see that side of me that's like, I'm not gonna pull any punches. It's not worth pulling those punches. I'll temper it to an extent, but I'm gonna
how about with your wife, Zach?
No, she's the one that puts me in place.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Everyone needs their kryptonite, and it's important that we have. Yeah. Like we could reach out to her and go, shut them down now. We need them shut down.
Yeah, no, she definitely she keeps me in line. That's for sure.
Well, that's good. That's
speaking of wives, you guys had your anniversary this weekend.
That's right. You know, with kids and teenagers, it's not like it is in the movies where you all dress up in your tux and go to the restaurant because you got to work out all these things. But 21 years, we're probably in the best place we've been our whole marriage. So
I love it. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's good to have your spouse be your best friend. You know, it's important.
Yeah. It is. It is. It definitely helps. Yeah, it was a great weekend. I'll tell you what, it was like cramming a mastermind into one day. I mean, it was just like, it was crazy. So
what was your biggest surprise that you didn't expect from the one day? Because this is more or less your first meetup, and you probably had expectations and you didn't know exactly how it was going to go down. So what's a good positive surprise that you had?
So Orkin and Jonas were two that had done masterminds with me. Mm-hmm. So they were there. So it was cool to see them in person. And we've had Foman along with us before. But that was it for like regulars, right? Yeah. Mike Sneed popped by, Brother B popped by. Actually, Mike Sneed was there most of the day. Brother B had some flight issues, and he showed up. But so like, there's maybe 4 people that we regularly interact with. The rest were like, some of them didn't even know what the Appliance Alliance community, not involved in it, not a part of it, found out about us and signed up. And so it was just like really amazing to get to pour into an audience that was fairly new.
Yeah. I could tell because over the weekend, new members requesting to join the Appliance Alliance page. I was like, woo, you guys definitely hit something. So a regional event in Virginia, people in the industry saw it somehow and said, hey, I'm not a part of anything, and let me go and check this out.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you, we had some, and Miss Ward, how could I forget Miss Ward? Miss Ward was there hanging out with us the entire weekend. She's almost like part of the team. So I wasn't even thinking of her as an attendee, but she was actually there as an attendee. So it was really cool. But yeah, on her YouTube channel, on Mike's YouTube channel, and then on Brother B's YouTube channel. And there was one other channel that the guys went on, and I apologize for not knowing it. That community came out in full force, and it was just really awesome to be a part of that. So Mike Carson and I listening to a video yesterday from Mike Sneed. And one of the things that he said is, he goes, I've been to a lot of appliance conferences over the years. He goes, all different types, all different places, all over. He goes, and normally business conferences, appliance conferences, stuff like that, he's like, there's one or two people that look like me. He goes, we stare at each other awkwardly, and then like that's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
He goes, I walked in and 3/4 of the room looked like me. He's like, that was just so welcoming to be a part of that. And it was just great to see these business owners that are hungry to get better. Yeah, it was awesome.
That's so cool. It sounds very much like a church in the sense that you want your church community to look like the community outside of the walls. And so that that balance of who people really are is wonderful, man. Friendships for life. Oh my goodness. That's what we're going to pray for this morning. I'll tell you.
Yeah, it was super cool. It was super cool. We had some very experienced business owners that have kind of, as you and I were talking in the pre-roll, did something similar to what I did something similar to what Jay did. We're built up to a point and like, this isn't right, and burned it down and started over again. And so, they're in that rebuilding stage. And so it was really cool to see that. Shout out to Saul. He sent a ton of swag from MSA. We really appreciate you being a swag sponsor. And that we appreciate you, brother, for sure. So
Saul's the man.
There you go. There's a testimonial from the community.
That's wonderful.
Glad to have you there. So. Well, you want to pray us up, and we'll get into more of this education thing today.
Morning, Lord. Today is a day to be grateful that people in our community, maybe working hard and grinding it out, needed some encouragement, needed some fellowship, needed a time where people can come together and recognize that we're going through much of the same things. God, we thank you for a community that's so open to help one another and to lift each other up, to share our war stories and our mistakes as well as our victories. Lord, I just pray that you continue to help us be humble servants to one another in the industry, to always be willing to give and know that the way you receive it will be in a way that potentially you won't see it coming from a mile away. So, Lord, if we all think this way, if we all humbly lift up to the community our gifts and our talents, and let you sort it through, we will all prosper. We will all have that peace, knowing that brothers and sisters around us are there for us. So we thank you for the Alliance team and their willingness to do this hard work to bring people together, Lord. So we pray that they have a feeling of accomplishment and knowing that they're on the right path. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. That's good.
Of course, my wife sees the pictures on Facebook and goes, "Why didn't you go?" And I said, "No, that's a trick. That's a trick right now. You're trying to test me. You're saying on my anniversary, head off to Virginia, right?" She's like, "Yeah, you could have went." I go, "Nope, you're messing with me right now. You're playing a game and I'm not buying into it." And she just smiled and walked away. So I don't even know if I was onto something or she's just grateful that I'm paranoid. I can't figure it out, Zach. It's a trap, Saul. Absolutely.
She would have actually been in good company. We had a couple from Colorado, which was super surprising, not connected with the community. Now they are.
My wife claims to be an introvert, Zach. I don't think she really is as much as she thinks she is. That was going to be a solo trip for me, but anyway, it wasn't in the cards. So, but thank you, Saul. This is what I'm talking about. This networking, like Saul I was doubting myself at 8:11 Eastern Standard Time, but now I'm back on track. So
there's no doubt. I'm scared of Vail. No, Doug, you stay home. You celebrate that anniversary, buddy.
yeah, we did the right thing. The next one.
Yeah.
You guys should do it in Manchester, Connecticut. It's a mecca.
Honestly, I think the next thing we're going to end up doing, just because of what the community is crying for, is up in Chicagoland.
Makes sense.
It's a pretty big hub. And so with that central location,
direct flights,
really easy to fly in.
Yep.
Yeah. So that is more than likely going to be the next.
Very cool.
Yeah. So
very cool.
So we are talking education today, right? We don't want no thought control. Thank you, Pink Floyd, for that wonderful album. Yes, I know about that album. I am not too young. I grew up listening to that. I'm not as old as Doug, but I still know that album.
Yeah, Adam, fear of missing out, man. That's what happens. But all right, next time, buddy, you and I.
You'll just have to fly into Chicago, get to meet me.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah. That's a smart thing. I think doing that regional right there is pretty cool. We'll all get mugged on their way to the airport, but hey, it's worth it.
Listen, Bolingbrook, Illinois ain't that bad. So, just a little southwest of Chicago, you'd be good to go.
Yeah. So I know I didn't ask you this question, but I'm curious, and if we could stop it right after that. But what is your education? What would you qualify as your education so far, from birth to now, in the realm of either with your appliance experience and business experience? I know you also did health coaching as well, which I bet you applies and fits right in with it too. Yeah. But what's sort of your list of educations that you would consider?
So all through high school, I was in the technical department. So the lights and the sound and the things that you see, the construction aspect of my life, the understanding electricity, that all started all the way back in junior high and high school. I went to college to be an airframe power plant mechanic, the A&P. I still hold an A&P license, till surrendered, suspended, or revoked. That actually gets drilled into your head while you're in school. So the FAA wants to make sure that you don't forget that. I have a license sitting here somewhere. So a lot of technical, a lot of electricity, a lot of sheet metal work, a lot of that hands-on education theory, and all that. So that technical
2 years, 4 years, how long was that?
It ended up being 3 years. I dropped out before I went through my bachelor's. The way that our school was structured, they sent you through the bachelor portion of the education first. So my focus was in aviation, and the way that the FAA works, we had to be at school a certain number of hours. If we missed one class, that was it. Like, that's all we could miss. You missed the second class, it's go back to the beginning and start over. So 40 to 50 hours a week at school for 2.5 years was it burnt me out. Yeah. So by the time I got to the part of college that the normal 18, 19-year-old is experiencing, where it's like, show up to class or don't show up to class, it's kind of entirely up to you. I was so burnt out I couldn't make it to class. I mean, I just had nothing left to give. So yes, I did that. Then I worked on the trades. So I worked at a bowling alley as a pin setter for a while, and then I got into construction. I did that for about 2 years. Then I was in the medical field, and the medical field was a whole, so it was on the job education. We actually had to go through and get trained up on patient care, right? Like, there's a whole word of that we had to do. A couple other random jobs, and I was in the appliance repair. And along the way, I've done classes, just independent classes. You mentioned I was a health coach. We had to go through some training for coaching. And then I've done some mindset coaching. Like, I've been trained up in that realm. So, yeah,
that's pretty cool that you had some specific trainings in industries that may not apply to what you're currently doing right now, but all of it has overlap, right? The health coaching, its mindset, the mechanical ability of airplanes, and sheet metal and all that stuff. That just all fits in and applies to confidence and knowledge, electricity in different industries, not just the appliance industry. So that's a pretty cool collection of training for sure.
And that's just formal and on the job training, right? So as I owned my own business and had to figure out ways of doing things, and that's why the description reads the way it is. YouTube University gets a real negative connotation, but I'll tell you what happened from that. As a business owner, YouTube University led me to actual formal education through on one day, like we, the Service Alliance Group, put on, or intensive 8, 12, 16-week classes, where you had to go and you were on Zoom or you were, whatever in these classes, and turning in homework and stuff like that. So I've done some non-traditional education in business, in social media marketing, right? Like, so the way that I approach marketing, whether if it was for the appliance business or for the flooring store, the way that I approached that came from education that I have. So yeah, there's been a lot of non-formal education that's sprinkled in from there. So
I never really heard of the YouTube University sort of statement before, but obviously it is a pretty powerful tool that you've got to do some research to verify that's true. You got to maybe watch another 2 hours of 2 other experts to find the truth. And probably there's nothing wrong with if something sounds good and looks good, try it yourself. And if it isn't sound, it's still positive movement moving forward, I think. And so you're right. When YouTube first came out and iPads first came out, that I can still remember the day the first iPad was thrown in my face with some dude changing a pump on a front load washer. And then they're asking me why I'm charging what I'm charging. I was pretty resentful in the beginning and did feel a little dirty and embarrassed. I'd go outside to my truck to watch a video how to put this part in. But I don't think there's any shame in it anymore, man. Frick, man. Chat GPT is getting it all from there anyway, and everywhere else. So experts and professionals writing books are putting out videos to accompany the books. And so the education's on YouTube for sure.
He's picking on you. He's saying you're old, Doug.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who is this guy again?
Right. He's just as old as you are. So I don't know.
Right. Oh, yeah, Rob. Yeah. Just because he has the face tattoo, he thinks he's cooler than everyone else. But well.
So, but here's where I was going with this today. We kind of talked about that earlier, right? So YouTube University leads into these other more formal education paths, right? So you start with this solo, like I'm watching YouTube videos and I'm kind of broadening my horizons, as it were, right? You're kind of expanding what you see and understand in the world. And then the goal is to move into a more formal, it may be informal, but a course, a group education, right? Because you can only get so much doing it by yourself. You don't have that feedback loop, right? Doug, did you what has been your experience? Did you go to trade school? Did you go to college? Did you do any of that stuff?
Yeah, technical high school, I remember my first appliance company was pretty expensive, right? A Dale Carnegie course. That was very helpful. I'd say that solidified it. I mean, that was able to get me so that I can use a pair of needle nose and get the job done, So, and then I would tell you that after that, it's just been all life experience. So it's been an awakening for the last 2 or 3 years to try to do it. But I'll tell you, I don't know if anyone can relate, and screw you now, Rob and Saul, but learning is slow for me in the technical realm, reading or studying and then, taking tests and things like that. That would be a lot of work for me. That stresses me the hell out. So my education right now is our new bookkeepers, which are amazing compared to the very expensive, very established bookkeeping company that we had. So I am going to fly to Miami, my friend. 4 sessions, 4 hours with my bookkeeper, and me asking maybe the second question twice, and then coming back at it 2 months later. I'm seeing development. I'm seeing growth. But I don't know. I feel like my wife, someone like you, Zach, even EJ as well. You guys seem to soak in this knowledge and have it in your brain for recall. For me, it's more of an application thing. Once I understand a concept, I can apply it. So.
And that's where I was going. So you move from this me education, the solo by yourself, YouTube or whatever. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The solo education into this community type education, right? You're part of a mastermind. You're in the book club. So you move from this solo application into this group application. And that's where you get what you're talking about, right? So you apply it within your business, and I apply it to an extent within my business, but you're a very application. You can pull out like examples at hand very quickly, where I can pull just like the
process,
the chapter and the page and the process from it. And then between those two pieces, everyone gets to meet somewhere in the middle on like how to apply it and how to understand it. And so I think it is so important to go from that solo. There's nothing wrong with it, because I don't think you ever can open your horizons beyond yourself if you don't have that type of education.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Into the group where you actually get the feedback. I think there's so much value in hearing other people's perspective. I enjoyed this weekend probably more than teaching, which does light me up. I do enjoy teaching and coaching. But I enjoy when I hear something from someone who has a different experience, how they processed something. It's like, oh, that's a really cool way to think about that, or that's a really cool way to apply that. I never thought of it that way. And so you only get that when you're within community, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. I agree completely, Zach. For me, the trial and errors of others, what they learned, to see it in action is definitely, that visual is more powerful for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And to measure your success, like how do you measure? How would you measure? Recommend a person measure their own success? How would you? What would your checklist look like?
Can you more quickly make adjustments than before? So if you come into a similar situation, it doesn't have to be the exact situation, but a similar situation, can you make a pivot and do it differently, if appropriate, or do it the same way but better if appropriate, right? Like,
That's
can
right.
can you make those adjustments? I think once you're able to do that, then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, then you've hit mastery, right? Like when you can do that without thinking about it, like it's just a autonomic response, right? So the 4 agreements, like more often than not, Doug has taken this little poster, these 4 agreements. I'm just kidding. The theories are good. And you apply those throughout your life without even thinking about them at this point. And then when someone is going through them, you're able to say, hey, wait a second. Wouldn't it be great if we could not take it personal? Wouldn't it be great if you were able to do your best? And that's, just how that turned out. And so you're able to take that, apply it within your own life. And then when someone else is experiencing it, you're able to share that experience. So I would say for me, the check mark of actually understanding a concept is that you can do it better within your own life to the point that you get to mastery where you can apply it all the time.
Right.
To the point that you get to the level that you're a teacher in that mastery, right? You're now apprenticing someone else and recognizing it within their life, and you're able to go, hey, right? And I think that's the progression. And I think that's why you always have to be mentored and have a mentee.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, though, sometimes people can get pigeonholed in the way that, thank you, Rob, pigeonholed in the way that we think about things. Like someone might say, well, I have a degree here, and I've been certified there. Here are my metrics of my business. This is how fast I scaled. I mean, and all that stuff is, I believe, part of the story. But do you and I, who are mindset people, invested people, do we think that is definitely a mark of success, that you are mentoring and menteeing at the same time?
I think yes. I think that comes into the mastery of that. You may be at a point where you have to be mentored, and then you may be at a point where you're mentoring, right? And there'll come a point where you can handle both ends of that spectrum, right? And to speak to, well, I grew my business and I did this and I did that, that kind of like pins on the chest, right? EJ actually talked about that this weekend, and I'm not going to do this justice, but he did actually talk about what are the first metrics when you go to a networking event with a bunch of appliance guys that get asked.
Yeah, we're gonna check ourselves compared to the people in the room, right? Of what level they're at and what they do. Yeah.
How much money did you make last year?
Yeah.
How many trucks are on the road?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how many weeks out are you booked?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a load of crap, right? Like that's a terrible metric to base it on. And so that was kind of like EJ's point. That's the wrong metric to be basing things on. Miss Ward in the house. What's up? So it's really just the wrong metric to be basing things on. And I think education is the same way. Yeah, see all them degrees on the wall? Like that's why you don't hear me bragging about that stuff, because it doesn't mean squat. It means I went to class. This fact should scare you maybe a little bit, but most of your mechanics don't remember school. Like we were stoned or drunk the entire time, slept through class. We learned how to take a test and we passed.
Yeah. You get your certificate and you're all set.
Yep. I got my little license from the FAA. Woo! Yep. It doesn't mean squat. Right. And so it's the wrong metric to look at. Where I look at you, Doug, and you're able to apply these things in business, right? I have the book knowledge. I have the understanding. You're like, hey, I figured that principle out 15 years ago. Like, I didn't know it was in a book, And so, like, I look at that more as a more important metric than a piece of paper.
But that there is not a sustainable model. I mean, I can't predict, but can you imagine if I added to this strong application process that I don't think I developed too much, just kind of my nature. But can you imagine if I began to learn and grow and implement new ideas into my gifted application approach, where I could be today 5 years ago? Now, that's just a waste of time, by the way. It's so dumb to look backwards and be regretful. It's great to look backwards and go, wow, I think there is something that could have been different. This could have impacted me differently. And that's your motivation moving forward to hit the books, try something and make it work.
And you just nailed where I was going.
Yep.
It's not and or.
Right.
It's both.
Right.
Okay. So if you have the formal education, that's a piece of it, right? So having that degree, having that piece of paper, having that license, that is one piece of it. But then being able to actually apply what you've learned throughout is important. If you're able to just naturally imply, but you have nothing new to add to that, then going back and getting some formal it's no matter where you are on the spectrum, whether you're the person with the piece of paper and the license, or you're the person who I learned this in the school of hard knocks, because a lot of what I learned was in the school of hard knocks. What you learned was in the school of hard knocks. Like, wherever you are on that spectrum, you need both pieces to be complete. And I guess that's the point of the entire podcast today, is that you need to couple that informal and formal education, the on-the-job training, the courses, the college classes, the whatever. You need to couple those things together and continue applying that.
Yeah. Well, and I think, but what about, there's some people, and I was one of them for a long time. How about as an example of feeling like it's not necessary? It's early 90s, and they're like, hey, we want to teach you sealed system training. And I'm like, not really, because there was just so many easy repairs out there that I'd rather do 12 to 14 calls a day than have to go get stuck and learn this thing. It's going to take me 3 hours and 4 hours to do one, then 2 hours, then an hour and a half eventually, hopefully. Then I'm married to the damn thing if it's a callback. I'm looking for the fast and easy money, and I'd rather do volume than the big jobs, right? That was very short-sighted of me, because I could have used that knowledge of sealed system training to grow Action Appliance. I could have used it, like we could benefit from it greatly right now at Action. And is it a coincidence the guy running the company didn't hold sealed system in high regard? Yet I've met guys and women that own businesses that go, the first thing I teach my people are sealed system training, because if they get that, then the rest of it's a cakewalk, and my mind is blown by it all. So short-sightedness in my technician career leads to, me realizing today, don't look for the shortcuts. If something makes sense to pursue and it's daunting, go for it. Just go, move forward, and you'll be inspired as you get into it, right?
That's not where I thought you were going with that at all.
It's Monday morning.
But it was a great path to go down. I was looking at it from this perspective, like Doug's like, I'm not doing sealed system. Now, would you agree that you're not as much of a tech as you are a true leader? Right? Like, your passion is more
What's
leading.
Crazy is there's so many of you guys
people
that just got to know me in the last 5 years keep suggesting that was the case. I'm going to, not out of bragging, but just for educational purposes, I'm going to post on the Appliance Alliance my numbers from 2010. Now, only 8 of you guys watch, but 8 other people.
Hey, we got 12 watching right now.
Yeah, you're 12. So
we've had a pretty good morning, Doug.
If each one of you tell 12 that, all right, I'm going to share my numbers, dude. I was a good fucking tech, Zach. Come on, buddy.
And we just got muted on YouTube.
I did not enjoy it. That's where you're getting to. I did not have a passion for that knowledge of the technical understanding. I just needed to know how to do it to get to the part where I love, which is making people happy, making their day better. Right?
I'm no different. Literally, I'm no different. I was a great tech.
Yeah.
I just don't give it.
Yeah. Right. But we love our friends that geek out about the type of solder, braze, or technique, or low voltage testing. It is awesome to have people gifted in different areas. Yeah.
Right. And that was my point. Like, that was not something that you were passionate about. That was not something that you cared about. I'm really behaving. See, I'm holding my coffee so I don't click those comments up.
Whatever, Saul and Rob. Whatever, man. Why don't you two guys come on? You guys keep just playing this game where you don't come on, but just come on, guys.
I think we need to set that up for next Monday. We'll set that up for next Monday. We'll make the topic match something to have Rob and Doug on, for Robin Sullivan.
Listen, guys, we know that you're not attractive, and it's okay. We're not going to judge you based on looks. Just come
on. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I think so many people are like, well, I have to be a great technician, or I have to be a great. No, you have to be what you're passionate about. Like, there has to be passion behind. One of the questions that I got asked a ton this weekend was, so why did you shut down? Like, because I've been upfront and honest about my entire journey the entire time I've been going through it. And so why did you shut down? Because I didn't have any passion for it anymore. I didn't care anymore. Like, do I have the head knowledge? Could I have gone back and rebuilt the company one more time and done it the right way this time around? Abso-frickin-lutely. Did I want to? Did I have anything left in me to want to do that? Was there any ounce of passion left? No. Because I shut it down, right? Like, that is the proof that there was nothing left. And when you get to that point that you're not passionate about what you're doing, you have to find that thing that you are passionate about doing.
You got to be open-minded, right, Zach? Because here's the thing, like what Mike just said here. What can you imagine? It's 2026, and you find this opportunity at Experience Tech, and you're like, I'm going to start a business, and who knows? You could be back in it as sort of an admin owner type thing. You really don't know, which means be open-minded to things changing in your life. You certainly could thrive and grow an appliance repair business in very little time. But your journey right now has been one of the coolest things I've been watching for the last 2 years or 3 years that I've gotten to know you. You've closed up something you did for a really long time, and you've been searching, and now you're like in 3 different places, doing really well. So where will Zach be in 2026? That should be a prediction that we lay out.
Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Place your bets, because that was actually how I answered it. They're like, well, what do you want to do? I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up. Right.
That's right.
Which leads to Dr. Dan's question right here. What's the best way to find passion? Experiment.
Yeah.
Try different things. And that was my point on YouTube University early on in the episode. Like, how the heck are you going to find these different things in life if you don't go out there and experiment? Like, I've gone down so many rabbit holes, like, oh, that's a really cool concept. Like, I never, and then I, follow that rabbit hole down, and then, okay, that doesn't interest me. And then I find something and I follow that rabbit hole, and I land somewhere in the middle. And then sometimes if it's like, okay, now let me try that, right? Like, I have a 3D printer. I like that. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of cool to mess around and experiment with that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's trial and error. It's experimentation. It's experiencing the world in a different way. And I think that's the best way to find that passion.
And it's easy, I think, for you, because of the type of person you are, because you're so interested and curious about things. That's just, yeah, exactly. So, I think that's part of your nature. But there are people, maybe, and I'm not speaking for Dan, but myself, it's daunting to dive into to be experimental. But it is interesting. So many successful stories and people you hear about, they're like, they had a curiosity and they pursued it a little bit and they geeked out on it. And now they're the king or the queen of this very specific industry, this specific technology. And you're like, how the heck did they get from here to there? And it was this willingness, So I do come from the nature of, I'm going to order the steak the same way. Don't change the seasoning, that I'm a pretty straightforward guy. Damn, salt. Do you guys do a little
He's
research?
Spicy this morning.
Yes, he's man.
He's like that Cuban coffee this morning.
But you know what's great is Saul feels guilty. So he won't do it now, or maybe he will. but I expect a text or phone call. I will be expecting one because that's what he's been doing. When he's hard on me, he then calls and apologizes. Just so you all know, Saul's not the bully that he wants to be here on this podcast.
So it is dopamine chasing. That's how I have to find it. But like Doug is saying, there is that level of you have to go and you have to experiment to find that passion. Yeah. Do you think, Doug, how did you end up in the managerial path? Like, how did you end up in this path that you're on? There's some experimentation to that, right? Like, it wasn't just like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the path of Action Appliance of not really having a management team, it was the owner and his wife, and then we all just did our thing. But as I found other technicians and office people coming to me because I was a good listener and going, why don't you have this problem? Or what do you do? That made me start to realize, and then they would do it and try it, and it would sometimes work. And then they would go and tell the people, like, I'm going to just do it the way that Doug does it, which sounded very undermining. But I think it's part of who I am, that I like to I see the big picture a little bit and the ramifications of decisions. I think that's a qualification that you might need to be a leader, right? I was noticing on Facebook, man, one of these kids that live in Connecticut doing his own business thing. And I like him. He's so great, but he's so naive and green as well. But he's so bold and passionate. And it's like he's a warranty guy. He pigeonholes a customer very quickly into a specific category. That's a bad customer. And I'm on there just trying to share a little bit of how I look at it. It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. It's about identifying some issue and getting to a compromise with the goal of making the customer happy. All right, so
he's trying to suck up now after.
Yeah, but now I'm starting to wonder who's the bigger bully, Saul or Zach, who has the control to pop it on the screen while I'm talking. No, but I think
there was some experimentation to that, though, because like you said it, like people would come to you and they would ask and you'd be like, well, I kind of do it this way. And then as you became more comfortable with that experiment, you're like, oh, maybe this is something I enjoy doing. I have this natural leadership within me. And there is a passion for you when you're leading and teaching people, but you wouldn't have found that without experimentation.
But adversely, when people start talking about Google and Google AdWords and map listings, I can hang there, but very quickly I lose interest in most of that. And so I'm not going to really pursue that to try to understand it well enough that I can do it for myself, because I think it's going to take up a lot of my time. So I do pick and choose where I want to try to grow my education. And I don't know if that creates a weakness in my situation, because I've only got so many waking hours. And so wherever I'm good at, I want to get really good at. Wherever I need to get good at, I want to get better at. But where I can pass that off to somebody else because it brings zero passion to me, I'm going to pay someone to do it.
Your biggest passion is helping people get really good at what they do. Your biggest passion is leading people, and everything that you pursue is going to be in that passion. But if you haven't found that passion, you're going to have to experiment more.
Yeah.
Do I want to teach? Do I want to lead? Do I want to be a tech? Do I want to whatever? Fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Pursue that path to an extent and see, like Doug said, does this light me up or not?
But I think we can get lazy, some of us, Zach. See, I think that any interesting fact thrown on your ADHD brain will make you go, well, let me hold on a minute. And you'll pursue that a little bit. And if it's sort of interesting to you, I can see you latching on and being a geek of green caterpillars, just because of some random interesting fact that was stated.
That's just the ADHD.
Yeah, right. For me, I'm not necessarily motivated. And so but like, how about this? In the area of finance, as a business with, 29 people and a big budget, do I and should I understand finances? And yes. And so I know it's an area I need to get better at, and I'm striving to, and it's not easy, but I want to get better at that because I need to understand what direction I best look at, whether to measure profitability and forecasting, and whether we did well or we didn't do well. So that's an area right now, as an example, that I know I want to get better at.
But let's look at the core of that. Let's look at the core of that. And that is the key to finding the passion. That all ties back to the one thing that you're passionate about. Seeing people grow, become self-healing, leading people like that. Everything. I have to understand my numbers and how to lead the company because these people need me to have a successful business so that we can be profitable and so that they can become the best. It all ties back to that same thing.
It does. It does. It does.
And so you found out early on, you're further ahead than me. You found out early on where your passion was. You experimented, you got there, and now you're there, and you've been there so long that it's just like, well, this is who I am. It's inherent in your DNA, where I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. So I think that's both sides of the coin. If you're starting to head down a path and you're seeing this familiar pattern of I want to help people, or I'm really good at technical and I really enjoy like finding the next tool, finding the next torch, finding the next method, that's your passion is heading that direction. So Dr. Dan, if your passion's leading a company and you're going to pursue everything you can to get to that leading the company well. If your passion is teaching people, you're going to head down that path to figure out how to teach people. If your passion is being a technician, you're going to do everything you can to head down that same path. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the education and being able to be open to these experiences, right? Did you know that you need to get better at finance necessarily until your accountant was kind of like, hey, we kind of need to shore up this area, right? Like,
no, for me, it was like, I always want to understand the big picture and know the why and the what. And if I have to rely on numbers or people dictating those numbers to me, they could be right. They might be wrong. I want to be able to determine that for myself. So that's my core reason for wanting to get better at that. But I do like what you said. I think it always does kind of tie right back to the core thing that drives you. So that would be kind of neat, Dan, to find out what that thing is that you love, because you're right. Like the example you gave, Zach, if Dan loved to train people, that would probably be one of his strongest, solid parts of his business, that he probably brings in all his guys from scratch and trains them the Dan way, and where other people are doing it differently and working harder at it, right?
And the nature of that is maybe he's not passionate about the other side of the business, which is actually running the business or being the technician. Maybe he's more passionate about that. And so like, you got to follow that thread. Listen, I am not that young, but it doesn't matter. I can still figure out what I want to be when I grow up. I'm not where you and Doug and Rob are. So shots fired.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Recently, and then is that we were able to figure out the core focus of Action Appliance. And it's no coincidence I've been here a long time, because I really believe in this entity of Action and what it stands for. So our why and our core focus turned into making their day better because people matter to us. And it's interesting how you talked about that finance piece that I'm working through now. I want to know the numbers so well because, I do want to be the best version of myself so we can make the customer's day better, make the employee's day better, because people matter to us. So you're right. At the core of it, it's that thing that drives everything that you do that you're great at or that you're working to be better at.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm jealous of that. You figured that out, right? Like I've been working with a coach to try and figure out like what lights me up, what is the path that I want to head down, and I'm not there. Like I don't know. It's not that I don't have options, it's I have too many damn options, right? Like I got to figure out like which thread, okay, like I have this core 3 things that I'm passionate about. Which one of these core 3 things is the way, or is there some combination of the 3 that works? I don't know.
Right.
And so I'm still trying to distill that.
But that's what's cool about you, Zach. That's what's cool about you is that you can be a very good expert at many areas because of this brain that just absorbs it all. But yeah, the mission for a guy like you is to get to the core, and it might be harder, but you've got it. It's there. That's so cool, man. I can't wait to see what that is. 2024. Let's get to it, Zach.
That's a goal. Right? Write it down. Make it happen. Make it real.
Yeah, I think it's your core focus, your reason for being is to be distracted by Rob and Saul on Monday morning podcasts.
You know, honestly, at somewhere near the core is connecting people and helping people just find this community. So a community builder is really it's maybe not at the center of it, but it's somewhere in the radius of that core for sure. So anyway, guys, we prattled on a really long time. Thanks for hanging with us today. If you couldn't tell, this is a topic that both of us are pretty dang passionate about. So thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time on the Morning Grind. Have a good day, guys.
Bye, guys.